Hello, good afternoon, morning, or evening, depending on the part of the world where you're right now watching us. Welcome again to another session of the Creative World Festival. And it's my honor now to introduce a very broad topic. It was maybe too narrow on our side, trying to cover in a single session what's happening in Latin America in terms of recovery for COVID. But I think we have two very interesting presenters nowadays that they are going to be real mind openers for other regions in the world that can learn of what's happening there. We are wondering, and we will dig deeper in the session about how cities, and especially citizens in a co-creative way, are coping with the crisis and which solutions are appearing all around the continent. And for doing so, we have today Leonardo Maldonado, and he's the founder of Cities Can Be. It's a movement that is helping cities to implement the sustainable development goals at a city scale with a strong focus on culture. Leonardo is as well CEO of Gulliver, an innovation agency. And we have Carolina Hoffman, and she is representing today Ciudades Comunes and the Ideaton that they are launching later on together with the Inter-American Development Bank, which also, it is a very interesting experience. Ciudades Comunes was one of the first conferences that was fully remote in a time of the pandemic. I think we were all only 1 week or 10 days in lockdown, and you were super fast to start reflecting on that particular situation. I think it created a lot of connections, no? Because probably nowadays we are already tired of being too many hours spending in front of the laptop. But at that moment is where they were actually the pioneers. Coming from the conclusions of the Ciudades Comunes conference, they launched a continuation of that. That was an ideaton, as I said, launched together with Inter-American Development Bank to try to collect ideas to foster recovery in a bottom-up, citizen-based way all around Latin America. So I'll give you the floor, Caro, to explain this great initiative, the ideaton.
I'm always muted, always. In my life, this is a constant in this era. I'm putting the chronometer so I don't pass my time. Thank you, Ramon, so much. Thank you for this invitation. For us, it's very important to share our experience in the more of all the consequences and all the progress that has been coming after the Congress. I'm sharing my screen now to tell you a little bit more about this. So Ciudades Comunes, as Ramon said, was a Congress that was it was aimed to be the place-making Latin America meeting at the end of this year, physical, and then this pandemic situation occurred, and we had to think fast. We had to understand that we were never going to be the same, and which things we weren't going to take with us after all of this has happened. So we only had questions, but we wanted to ask all these questions with a lot of experts in different subjects. So we joined together and we made this Congress that it was made in a month. And lots of people came in this digital era from around Latin America, all regional and international. It was amazing the amount of people that was connected, making questions, participating, proposing other subjects that we were supposed to speak with. They were 24 hours non-stop for 2 days. So 84 countries participated, and there were 80 expositors speakers. So the themes that we proposed in this Congress was inclusive city, open government, regenerative development, civic laboratories, habitat and justice, social justice, and post-domesticities. These 6 themes for us were the most important to question in this moment. And well, as I said, there were different formats. We have conferences, we have panels, we have workshops. We weren't used, and we weren't going to resign the Congress that we had thought physical. So we tried to experiment in this digital space in all the different formats that we could imagine. We had the I don't know, like the thunder speakers that were the quick speakers, and we had a shared space that was like a space for us to meet, because Congress, what is Congress if not the place where you have your coffee or you chat? And so we wanted to have that, and we had a cultural space. After that, because these spaces are great, and for us to speak and to question and to, it's fantastic, but we need action. So all this Congress takes to like the most important part is to take action at the end of the day and to change the city actually, and all these things that you speak about changing. What are you going to actually do? So we work with the Ibero-American Bank. I don't know how to say it in English. For us, it's the BID, Banco Interamericano de Desarrollo, Development Bank. There you have it. And and we made an open call that it was called Volver a la Calle. It's going back to the street. So we launched it, and we received 485 projects that were all about going back to the street. These are the amount of proposals, like for the different countries that we received all around the region, all around Latin America and the Caribbean. These were the different concepts of which we analyzed these projects, the important parts, that it had the low cost, adaptability, what was the challenge, and it had to be a challenge that the most important part of this challenge was to have an idea that it was replicable, that we could find in another Latin American cities, that other Latin American cities could identify with this challenge or with this problem and could replicate. So you were not just answering for the local space because you are going to work in a local place, but the possibility of answering to a lot of different places in Latin America with this solution. So which were the ideas that won? These are the 6 winning ideas. We have 2 from Brazil, 1 from Ecuador, Uruguay, Chile, and Panama. 6 very different projects with different approaches and different problems. Here are the menciones, the honorific mentions that also involve different parts of Latin America, all about the very different subjects: commercial, informal, commerce, markets, streets, pedestrians, mobility, playgrounds, kids, all approaching different problems. So, well, a little bit more. These are the projects. This is from Brazil. It's about construction and having a corner where you can find your tools. This one has to do with markets and how to put the market on the street, because this COVID situation isn't a very friendly place. The markets have been a very conflict place. So being able to give an answer to these economic places that are one of the economic spines, like the backbone for many economic cities in Latin America. Cultural expression, the culture has been recluded to the houses, and because cultural spaces have been shut down, so having an alternative in open spaces, playgrounds, and having play, games to include or to integrate different communities and cultures, mobility and feminism, and thinking about cities that care. All about the taking care and the domesticity of these spaces, and the gender in this inequality division, and this about giving basically dignity in public transportation and the stops. We have Mondays and Thursdays. We have, so these winners won. What they won was, now we put the winning prize. What they have won is the chance to have an incubation process and to have obviously the support of the IBD to being able to effectively making a prototype of their project. But before they do this incubator, and this incubator is all the process that takes to a project to construct the solution for this conflict that they have identified bottom up. So when you get to the territory, when you get to the place where you are going to, because you identify that problem, where you're going to implement it, you should not just get there like an alien, but effectively work with the people. So we have been working in this comprehensive, in this like understanding, defining ideas, prototyping and measuring these different instances that take for a project to have all this content. And they have been working in this app that it's great, and it's the mural, and they have been working collaboratively, and they have been working individually, constructing their projects from all the different approaches. These are superheroes. So the superheroes are the how they each other see their different projects. So we have all this serious part, but we have also the ludical part and the part when we find each other to work with each other and with different groups. More works of how to identify the different actors in the territory, how to prototype in the process and to understand every part of the process that have to be taken care with participation, and how they are going to participate, and golden invitations for different expertise to talk about different subjects during the process, and these amazing teams that have been working for 2 months in this incubator and are effectively in the next, hopefully fully next 2 months, going to make them real and make them tangible and change one part of the city, but potentially change a lot of Latin American cities with their prototypes. So this is what we are doing, and this is what hopefully we have done. And thank you.
You are the best, Carolina. I must say that Ciudades Comunes was a great inspiration for us organizing the Creative Crocodile Festival. So we tried as well to kind of translate this playful mood, relaxed environment, but really intense amount of discussion to this part of the world. You still have time, actually. Like, you went super strong and super luckily fast. But I like to ask you like a specific question, since you have a bit more time. Can we explain it? Just choosing one of the projects, which is kind of the trajectory from being selected to what's happening now. Can you just choose one and explaining us what's happening?
So what they are doing, they have been selected with this principal idea, with this main focus on what was the problem and what they were going to do with that, what was their prototype to implement. This idea was conceptual, so what they have been working these 2 months was to start understanding what is the whole process that they have to approach in order to involve the community. What are the parts the community must be involved, must change from their projects? What are the flexibilities of their projects? And what are these parts of the project that are vital for it to effectively change the problem that they have identified? And the interesting part is that all the projects are going to be converted in a manual for it to be replicable, to have replicability, or and being able to adapt to every community that they have found that problem, and being able to implement that solution without being a copy paste from another city, from another country, from another culture, but to being able to say, okay, so this is our conceptual idea. For you to implement it in any part, you have to be able to think all of this in adaptation, and all of this is the core. So it's very interesting how all the projects have been modifying and going to the territory. They also have revised with the communities and also having feedback from them on how to modify it. So it's been great. I don't know. They have, like, I don't know, the other day, Brincando con Confianza, that it's with one of San Pablo's in Brazil. They did a place game with chalks to give a sense of the first prototype of their paint prototype. So it's scaling in what should be like a public policy or what should be a permanent solution. They are going to do first the prototype, but they are starting to do the testing of this prototype. So it's nice to see all the instances going, to see how the theory goes into practice. It's amazing.
No, thank you so much, because actually I think one of the things that we are doing during this conference, or generally under the Creative Bureaucracy Initiative, is kind of demonstrate that there are oxymorons that are not as such, because creative bureaucracy is not an oxymoron, but in other fields we have to reconcile also other tensions. No, how can we replicate but adapt to a specific context? Because we learn, and it's very, very clear now that one size doesn't fit all. And also, how can we plan for the spontaneous? How can we build flexibility while planning for the common good? But yeah, so very, very thank you so much for that. Leonardo, you are the founder of Cities Can Be, that movement especially focused on Latin America. He was sharing that me before that he used to live in LAN Chile, which is the Chilean Airways, but unfortunately or fortunately now he has to be based, because of the pandemic, constantly in Santiago de Chile, from where he's speaking to us today. So tell us a bit more, Leonardo, about Cities Can Be and how Latin American citizens and institutions can leverage creativity to make cities better.
So first of all, I'm not the leader of Cities Can Be, I'm the co-leader. And that makes a whole difference. We're two organizations and we're two people that lead the, and so I'm going to share my screen. There you go. So as I was saying, we're two organizations, Sistema B, which is the foundation that promotes B Corps. For those in the audience that don't know what B Corps are, those are companies that assume that not only do they need to produce economic impact, they also have to have a positive social impact and a positive environment impact. So this was created by the mixture of Sistema B and Gulliver, which is the innovation lab that I lead, fostered by the BMW Foundation. Sistema B, at the moment we started this, was had already done 8 years or 6 years of promoting the B Corps, and we had been articulating innovation ecosystems all over Latin America. So that meant that when we started, we were already working in 25 cities in 15 countries. And the whole idea was, how do we crowdsource the SDGs? What we do know is that cities is the battleground for the SDGs. SDGs is not actually only the milestones. SDGs, it's a challenge of cultural change. The gender equality, you're not going to achieve it by changing only the laws. You need cultural change. And the question is, how do we do this massive cultural change that we need to do? And that has been our question. We are working right now in 7 different cities, 5 of them in Latin America, 2 of them in Europe, in different stages with different processes, but with the same idea. The idea is, how do we get millions of people to collaborate? This is what we call extreme collaboration. And what we've been doing is creating spaces in each city to do that. Just to give you an example of what that means, these are the participants of Santiago. So you have the first 6 logos are government logos. The one that looks like an arrow downwards, it's a sporting club. You have foundations here, you have big corporations, you have global institutions like PNUD, you have rock festivals like FIS, you have municipalities, different municipalities working together. So what we do is something that we call intertwining stakeholders. And what does that mean? That means we do public-private associations to do this cultural change, but we do it in a very different way. So the idea is when you put the government, the companies, the private sector, the universities together, what they tend to do is to get on a table, agree on what's wrong with the city, and then agree on how to solve it. In our experience, those two agreeing, actually what they do is they drive out the passion. Change is driven by passion, and passionate people are very picky about what they work on. And so if you have, for example, a gender equality activist, and agreeing on what's wrong with Santiago, you end up saying, well, the problem is pollution. Well, at the moment you say those words, the gender equality activist falls off the table because they're not interested in pollution, they're interested in gender equality. So the SDGs are so broad that we need everybody on the table. So instead of getting everybody to agree all the time on everything, we have some people agreeing sometimes on some things. And that allows everybody to play. So here you have an image of launching of an initiative of Santiago called Use Your Power. The idea was use your power to change what needs to be changed. And the interesting thing is you have a couple of multimillionaires on that photo. You have social activists, you have painters, you have singers in that photo. You have a couple of mayors in that. You have a national prize in science in that photo. You have people from TV, people from NGOs that work with extreme poverty. You can have them all together because everybody acts on their passion, on their drive. We don't force them to agree on so if you listen to me till now, it sounds like it's a mess. Well, it is kind of a mess, but it's not. So basically what we do is we build a very strong shared common purpose, a common dream that is so abstract that it allows everybody to participate, that it's so open, that it allows everybody to push with their own drive, with their own passion. So we add to the common purpose this distributed initiatives. Everybody can participate in their own way. And one of the things we were very passionate about is that common good seems to be owned by governments, or if you're open enough, NGOs. But we're saying no, common good is not something owned by governments or NGO, it's owned by everybody. And since we're part of the B Corp movement, we think companies have a big role in what we're gonna be doing next. And so if we can make sure common purpose and distributed initiatives, we can get what we call extreme collaboration. Said in different words, basically what we're saying is if we cultivate enough meaning, we can get very much action from all corners of the city, and we can produce collective impact. In the process, we've been making alliances all over the world with other similar movements. And in the midst of that, COVID hit us, and we've been using this extreme collaboration to tackle the different challenges in different cities. So what's interesting is that if you can get as many players as you can have resources for different sources, different conflicts and different problematics in each town. So to finish, I want to just share the campaign we launched in the midst of the COVID. Can you hear the sound?
After this wake-up call, cities all across Europe will need extreme collaboration to achieve our goal of creating vibrant, fair and regenerative communities supported by businesses who are working for the local common benefit.
Cuando termine la cuarentena, aquí en Barcelona, vamos a requerir de colaboración extrema para resolver las desigualdades sociales, sobre todo en el frente del empleo, del desempleo.
Aqui em São Paulo, mais do que nunca, precisaríamos da colaboração extrema para a construção de sistema econômico mais inclusivo, mais equitativo, mais regenerativo e mais consciente para todos.
Quand l'épidémie actuelle sera terminée, à Genève, on aura besoin de collaboration extrême pour améliorer les transports en commun et donc la qualité de l'air.
Dopo l'emergenza coronavirus, a Roma avremo bisogno della massima collaborazione per favorire una ripresa economica sostenibile.
Once this wake-up call is over, here in Edinburgh, UK, we need extreme collaboration to make a city for everybody. Civilizations have been defined in BC and AC, and now we're entering AC 2.0 after Corona, where we can eradicate poverty and bring about environmental sustainability towards our goals locally and also globally.
Ayúdanos a compartir lo que hemos aprendido en ciudades más bellas. Help us share what we've learned in cities can be.
So that's it.
Thank you, Leonardo, so much. Very, very interesting concept, this one extreme collaboration. Actually, before today in the program, there was a very, very insightful interview that my colleague Robin Bennett has done to Panthea Lee. And she was sharing her insights on co-creation, no? That she was basically saying that there are limits to that, and it's not enough to just drop people in a room or just to take ideas from people, that we have to acknowledge the difference on backgrounds, the inequalities, the understandings of languages, and all those barriers that you can imagine. And then we have to do differently, no? And it's true, on the other hand, that COVID particularly has made really explicit the different dysfunctions that city has, and particularly Latin American cities still have a big degree of informal economies, informality in housing. Also, there is a strong gender bias in this particular crisis. So I'm wondering how you reconcile these elements of inequality when pursuing extreme collaboration in this particular moment. You can reply both, interrupt yourself, do whatever you feel so. But yeah, that was my initial question.
Yeah, so I've dedicated myself to make ecosystems flourish. Ecosystems, and I mean, I'm not talking about natural ecosystems, but human ecosystems. And they flourish by passion. I'm going to insist on that point. People that actually can't sleep if they don't make the change are the ones who are going to drive the change anyways. And so the question, and I don't care if they're entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs, or they work in the government, or they are a teacher in a school. In my experience, anybody can lead. It doesn't necessarily come from specific sectors. You can have entrepreneurs who are not very entrepreneurial, and you can have people from governments that are very creative and innovative. So it's not about that, it's about making a space for them to flourish. And in that sense, in my experience, you can do the cultural change if you have the cultural agent. So my question is not what should we change? My question is who's the cultural agent that we have present? Who can we sponsor? Who can we make flourish? Who can we help to, like the examples Carolina gave that were amazing. Those are people who are very crazy about having these, she called them superheroes. So yeah, where do you find those superheroes? And when you find them, how do you make them flourish? How do you sponsor them? How do you get the very traditional bank to sponsor that specific initiative? That's my business. That's what I do. So right now, all these inequality that have always been there in Latin America, but are showing up with much more violence because obviously, once again, catastrophe hit worse the people who are less prepared and have least resources. So there's 1,000 people flourishing out of the woodworks with initiatives. So collective food things, collective health initiatives. There, how do you stop the indoors family violence produced by being quarantined? There's so many initiatives, and there's people pushing those. So instead of creating them, instead of getting to a drawing board and be creative about how to solve, why don't we sponsor those initiatives? So maybe they're not perfect. Maybe, yeah, the guy who came up with the solution, maybe it's not the right solution, or maybe, yeah, but help him see other solutions, bring him the money, and the driving force is what I'm looking for. So going back to your question, we have new challenges, yeah, but there's new people that are coming out of the woodwork, taking those challenges on. So we don't need to really redesign. What we need is to find the ones that are already driving the thing and help them out, and create spaces that where they can collaborate not only locally but globally, because the people who are coming up with solutions for poverty in one country can inspire and illuminate people who are doing the same thing in the other places. So if we can connect them, we can intertwine stakeholders, which is basically what we think should be done.
Yeah, thank you for that, Leonardo. That's a very interesting approach, because it seems that in innovation ecosystems, we are trying to reinvent the wheel constantly. And actually, like an ecosystem, by definition, it must be a system of diverse species, because if not, it's another thing. It's a farm, or it's another thing, no? But I really like this approach, just connecting it as well to other things that we discussed on the festival. One of the first sessions was called Thinking the Unthinkable, really focused on leadership that was sitting really high up on the hierarchy, but most people during the workshop were reflecting on the value of listening, no? So it's not about yourself thinking the unthinkable, but to be open enough to find someone that is thinking that already, no? So for you, Carolina, how do you find that people, how do you make them flourish?
For me, I was listening to Leonardo, and I completely agree. This idea of human ecosystem, for me, it's this moment. It's all about the opportunity. If you take this opportunity as an opportunity, if you read this possibility of all these humans interacting in this digital space, crossing barriers in a much more accessible way, and being able to share experiences and to share problems and to share solutions, it's finding the common places in this human ecosystem, in this city's ecosystem. Most, not all of them, but most of all the problems that have surfaced so rapidly and so big during this COVID situation, this sanitary situation, already existed. Very, very few are new problems. These are problems that have been before, and this situation have expanded them and have put a light on them and has made them very extreme. But they already were there. So there were people already working on these things, and you can have these people be supported and explore, and this opportunity of being able in this situation absolutely not ever seen ever, being able to have this digital connection of people exploring different solutions, taking them to practice, and adjusting them and making it better. I think it's all about this sense of community, but also like sharing projects makes bigger projects. It's not about I have an idea and I will hatch it for myself. Take it, share it, make it bigger, because that makes my idea bigger and makes your idea bigger, and it makes the movement bigger. So I think that the best place or the best phrase, I think it's this human ecosystem, and we all chip in to make this human ecosystem bigger. I think it's a wonderful concept.
Yeah, but I guess without being too naive to also like avoid considering power imbalances and gender imbalances and those elements, no? Leonardo, you were like in the discussions that we had before. You were emphasizing the role of culture as well. Can you just explain it a bit more?
Yeah, I think our main role, if we understand ourselves as change makers, I think our main role is to move the move the line of what we are ashamed of. Because we don't do what's legal, we do what we're not ashamed of. Let me explain what I'm saying. I think in Latin America, we're obsessed with the laws. And I think we think that when we change the laws, things change. Well, in the States, they changed the law prohibiting being racist in any shape or form decades ago. Did that finish racism? Did that produce a more equal? It didn't. Maybe some aspects were twitched and some things were. I'm not saying we shouldn't do laws. I'm just saying it's not enough. Now, when you're ashamed of being called a racist, then you stop being a racist. Then it doesn't make sense anymore. So we should be ashamed of the gender inequality. We should be ashamed of the way we consume plastic. We should be ashamed of our carbon footprint. And that happens in a personal level. But that personal level, you're not ashamed because of your psychological childhood drama. You're ashamed because society culturally changed. And what was possible before is not possible anymore. So one of the amazing signs of this is now in Disney Channel, when they show you old movies, they put a disclaimer at the beginning saying this movie reflects a society that has changed, that was in the past. And we're sorry about the values this movie shows, because some movies are very racist, some movies are very gender impresentable. But what they're saying is culture changed, we've changed, we have new standards. So rules are not rules, laws are not laws. In Chile, where I'm living, we changed from receiving 3 plastic bags a day from different commerce to prohibiting ever giving you another plastic bag. And people didn't complain at all because the cultural change had already happened. People were already ashamed of consuming so many plastic bags. So I think if we're gonna reach the 17 SDGs, we really need to move the line of what makes us ashamed of who we are. We need to start being better human beings, not only to each other, but also to the world. If we keep treating the world, the planet, the way we're treating it, it's going to destroy itself. But we don't see it. We need to culturally change that.
Well, thank you so much again, Leonardo. I think it's, yeah, like you frame it in a really really clear way, no? I'm thinking, for instance, in what says Leilani Farad. She was the special rapporteur on the right to adequate housing to the UN till this year, actually this 2020. And she was reflecting on on housing as human right, obviously. And she was clearly identifying that, no? It's not the same when you go on a street and see a homeless people and you say, okay, this person is lazy, or maybe he's a drug addict, and maybe he deserves that if you think differently, no? And you say the government must be ashamed because that clearly shows a failure of a specific government to guarantee the right to housing. And this, this thing.
But let me take you one step forward, because if you think the government should be ashamed, that's not my problem.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm ashamed of being part of a society that allows this to happen, then it's a different ballgame. Then change are going to happen fast. So I really love Greta Thunberg, but she wants governments to act. I don't want governments to act. I want us to act. I think we need people to act. It's not enough to force the governments to act. They have to act. I don't disagree with that. But it's us. It's not Coca-Cola that has to stop producing plastic bottles. It's us that we need to stop buying them. If we stop buying them, they're not going to produce them. We need to be conscious of who we are and what we're producing.
Linking that to this particular moment, and I'm going to ask Carolina, that we also have seen that during this COVID situation, there's been also a growing appreciation to some public services like health workers. There was been some moments of empathy where different cities, for instance, were going to applause or were just sharing different bottom-up approaches. We've seen like how Frena La Curva has been acting in any Latin American countries. We've seen neighborhoods helping the elderly, like people helping the old neighbors to buy groceries and this kind of things. But also we've seen the rise of surveillance, control, and so on. So how do you see that, Carolina? How do you see like this particular moment and those possibilities that are open in terms of changing minds, moving this boundary of shaming and so on?
I think this is a very, very political moment. I think it's been like very divided. The part of the political situation, the decisions, the ones that have been imposed, like the cities have to stop, the country has to stop, people have to stop, you have to stay in your house, you have to have a circulation permit, and what it has made conscious to the people, the power of the mass and the power of the individual decision made collectively. So I think it is a moment of history empowerment to the people to understand how they can stop a country, a city, a street, if they stop, if they actually stop. So it was a government imposition, but when the result is on the individuals, and this is the impact, then you have to measure that. You have to understand this kind of empowerment cannot be taken back. So I think it's these two very inverse situations. We in Latin America and in the world, it's been a struggle, and I know it's been a struggle because this governmental imposition has been imposed in individual solutions in how to consider, like how to get food, how to get your family safe, how to get health. These have been because so many individual solutions have been taking place in a very informal situation because government hasn't been present in all of these subjects. Then it's been it has presented and it has put again the light on a lot of problems that already been there, but I don't know how we can get back to the anonymous part of this. The thing that we think that we as individuals in a collective situation, in a mass situation, we don't tilt the balance. We don't tilt the world in a better place. So the days that I'm positive, I'm there. The days that are negative, I'd say make the government take a circulation permit for all the cars, and let's start not having more cars in the cities and because if they made it for the health of the COVID, then make it for the health of the planet. And then I'm very negative.
Yeah, it's good to acknowledge as well our personal and collective ups and downs. Leonardo, I have a very specific question from you that is coming from the chat, from Lia Gilardi. And she's saying that I love this idea of intertwining stakeholders that you put forward. And she's asking, I'm wondering just who may have the mandate in a city to make such connections and helping diverse stakeholders to come to the table. Where would such connectors sit in a local government?
So I don't think that connector sits in the local governments. I think it sits anywhere. And it's all about governance. What the video I showed is actually about the 5 books we're writing to share. It's going to be Creative Commons, so all the books are going to be free for everybody, and it's going to be in all languages. But basically what we're saying is the governance has to have what we call a motor team, and that motor team has to represent all sides of the city, and it's articulated by a neutral articulator. Sorry to use the word 2 times, but yeah, it's somebody who doesn't belong to one of the big parties, because if the one who articulates is somebody from the mayor's office, then it becomes a mayor project. If it's from a private company, then it becomes that company's project. So the articulator has to be a neutral player. We usually use a cultural change consulting firm because they have the skills and they understand how to do this. But you have to bring to the table, if you're a neutral player, the university, the government, big companies, startups, NGOs, social movements. And if you're neutral enough, then people will come to the table. And you need to crowdfund the money, because if only there's one sponsor of all that, then it becomes their game. So you need to have public and private money and public and private players. It takes some time, but we've done it and it happens. But you need to be as neutral as possible.
Which also, I guess, is related to the issue of building trust that we've been discussing as well during the festival. How do we build trust in our ecosystem? How do we build trust while belonging? Which is also a broader question, I guess.
Absolutely. So in my experience, you build trust one step at a time. And what we do with this intertwining stakeholders is we actively look for synergies. So the university doesn't necessarily trust the private sector, and the private sector doesn't necessarily trust the university, and both of them don't trust the government, and blah, blah, blah. But what happens is you figure out that this university is bringing this amazing speaker to the town. And you make it in a way where there's a safe space to talk about this. And then the company says, oh my God, you're bringing that guy. I've always wanted my people to talk to that guy. What if I put part of the money to bring him here, and you lend him to me a couple of hours so he can speak with my corporates, and then the government says, oh yeah, that would be cool too. Could I bring the room? Okay, so the private company brings in the money, the guy from the mayor brings the room, and then the university is bringing the same guy that they were bringing anyways, but with less resources. It's much cheaper for them to do it. So the university likes this idea of cooperation, and then the government also likes the idea of cooperation because they get their logo and their event and blah, blah, blah. So everybody wins. It's not about, we understand that collaboration is about giving up my own goals, and it's not. If you do that, then nobody wants to collaborate. It's about actively looking for synergies, and then everybody can play.
Which also, I guess, relates to the collaborative advantage that Caro was sharing before.
Yes, and I think that this is very important. The moment the collaboration is happening, not try to make like everybody do the same or to aim for the same. Every part of the organization, each organization has their own specialty. Because that's why they're in the table. Not trying to bend it or to make everything equal or to get everybody to the same place, but to everybody to chip in the thing that they have the most to give. And that, I think that is the value of having a lot of organizations in the same table, because if not, everybody's the same, and then why are we even joining? The diversity, it's and it's a training to value the diversity because it's very hard, and it's very hard to mix it all, but the mix is great, not the equal or the common or the like, not the common, but the same, not the same diversity.
Thank you, Carolina, so much. I think we have to start to wrap up, but I'd like to ask you to like as a kind of a positive conclusions, if you could share a dream for the after COVID city ecosystems, institutional framework.
So what I think one of the things that COVID has taught us is that we are really crappy at global governance. We have these global institutions like the UN and everything that we created just after Second World War. And they're slow and they're wonderful. They avoided Third World War, but we need different ways of organization. We need more open organization. We need more open, radical collaboration worldwide if we want to meet our needs. So if we could assume, one of the good things of COVID could be that we assume that our global governance is over. It's from the past. We need a new one. We need a new way of collaborating. This idea of treating COVID one country at a time is completely ridiculous. It's like organizing people to go pee in a very specific part of the pool. It's one pool. It's one planet. We're not going to do it this way. We need to do it together. And same thing happens with the contamination of the seas or global warming. We need to actually start working together.
Thank you, Carolina.
I am writing because you aim high with this, and so if I can make a wish list, I'll make it, and I have done it. So for me, this is it's an incredible epicenter data moment. We are surrounded by data. I don't know if there has been a subject as COVID that has registered and communicated so many data of scientific death, variations, different countries, how they are all dealing with this, all the alternatives, what countries are open, what countries are closed, what cities are. It's amazing, and it's only a virus. If we have to scale this, and again, like Leonardo, make it about the world, make it about the how do you say, the ecological ecosystem. How are we doing there with all the fires? How are we doing in equal gender rights in the world? How are we? So that data and that global processment, or how do you say, like dealing with this data as a public policy, as a we are not going to tolerate this anymore. That would be my goal, and I think this value in domesticity, value in what we have seen, what it takes to take care of your houses and your family, and from the most global movement to the most family core, I think this has to make a precedent and change. And I hope for that to be the best possible outcome.
Thank you very much. I'm really not sure if we are winning the prize to the most interesting session in this festival. I'm sure that we are winning the prize to the group of speakers that have gesticulated the most. That's for sure. For me, like, I feel really blessed of having had the chance to share this hour with these two extraordinary human beings, and I'm really regretting that we are not all together in some part of the globe to keep the discussion, sharing some glasses of wine. But in any case, Leonardo, Carolina, thank you very much. We'll keep in touch. Thank you.